Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to my YouTube channel, Buddhist Biohacker. And welcome to the Lisa frequency. This is what we are calling my show when I don't have any guests on with me and I am just talking. And so I have some time today. I have a mediumship event this afternoon at 3:30. So at least 1 or 2 Sundays a month, I create space for a group reading for folks who are interested in getting together in a group and communing with spirit. And so I have that going on later today and had some time and thought I would hop in here and do some live readings and share some things and connect. So thank you to everybody who's joining in the live. Please feel free to share your comments and questions. If you want me to pull a card for you, if you have a question, I'd love to connect in with you and to say hello. So I'll just kind of start out. I'll just update everybody a little bit about what's been going on. I just had an incredible trip to New Orleans, of all places, for New Orleans Jazz Fest for my husband's 50th birthday. And it was really, really amazing. It's always inspiring when I go to New Orleans. There's such a depth there, and the music, of course, is amazing. And as a psychic medium, there's a richness there with all of the magic and occult and voodoo and wisdom and spirit energy that's down there. It's just an incredible place. And so I'll kick off. I've got a little video to share as kind of a fun little thing that we can talk about first is, what do we think of spirits? You know, I'd love to know what you all think, and I'll share as much or as little of my experience as you'd like to hear. I have a knack for taking videos and photos of spirits. I think, you know, do they want to show themselves to me? Is it my energy that calls them in? Is it just because I'm looking for them? I have no idea, honestly. But over the years, I've taken some really cool pictures. I've had some video. I had a couple of seances I led years ago that were pretty profound with the audio recordings. And we had folks talking in the audio. I'll have to see if I can find that. I'm sure some of my clients from that time probably still have some of those audio tapes, but just really lucky to capture the spirit realm. And who knows, you know, I don't think any of us really know until we leave our own bodies how that experience is or what to expect on the other side. I know, you know, what I've gathered over the years in connecting with those who've passed away, or spirits, angels, teachers. You know, it's not just folks that we've lost in this lifetime, but it's energies and beings from other places. And, you know, to me, ultimately, they just don't operate in a physical body. So they're not trapped in this 3D realm. They have a ultra dimensional experience, right? They're experiencing other dimensions and energies and times and spaces different from us. And, you know, how that works, I don't know, but we know that it has a lot to do with electricity, and they love to use electricity to connect with frequency. And just read somebody the other day that, you know, their husband's connecting with them through the television set. So our house has a lot of energy, and this is kind of where I'm going. I have a fun video to show all of you. So our home that we live in, let me just start with, we rented the home when we first moved into the home. And I had a very strong intuitive feeling that we would end up purchasing the home and living there long term. And life went on, you know, had that intuitive feeling, but life went on. It was actually a pretty cool story because I was driving on the highway. I think I was driving kids like one place to the other. And I had this just vision come over me. And visions are different from an intuitive hit for me personally. I'd love to hear what other people experience. But for me personally, what happens is this energy kind of comes over me, and I actually see in front of me it's not even in front of me. It's like I'm in the vision, I'm in the experience. And that's, to me, what's different about a vision versus some other kind of experience or an intuitive hit. Like a knowing is different. To me, a vision is I'm in the future in that moment. And so what happened was I was driving down the highway, and all of a sudden I felt like I was driving down the highway a month or so from that moment, and I was driving to my new home. And I just knew at that moment, because it was a vision, which again, I've probably had a dozen of visions in my lifetime. I really haven't had a lot of them. So they're very potent, very powerful experiences. And so with this, I told my husband, we're going to move. And sure enough, we had a chain of events that occurred very quickly over the next 4 weeks. And we did move, and we did move in the location that I thought we were going to move to. And we ended up in this home, and we were renting it. And I told my husband, I think we'll own this house at some point. And I don't know, a year went by, maybe longer than a year and a half. And I remember telling my husband, like, I think you need to get everything financially in order to buy this house. Like, I think you need to get things moving so you can purchase this house. And he did. And shortly after, he got all of the financial pieces in place so that he could purchase the house. If that ever came to be, at that time, we were renters, and that's what we did. Well, we got a phone call from our property manager out of the blue. And let me back up to even say, I'll get to the rest of the story, but we got a call from our property manager out of the blue. And he said that our owner, who owned the house, he lived in a different state, had died unexpectedly. And we were going to have to probably move. And that was like, whoa, oh my gosh. Well, the other thing that had happened was a couple weeks prior to this, probably a few weeks prior to this, we were awakened at like 3:00 in the morning by our fire alarm going off. You know how it beeps, when the batteries go low, that kind of thing. Well, it beeped 3 times, very loud, very specifically 3 times. It was so specific, and then it stopped. It was so specific, and it was so strange that my husband actually put a note in his phone about it because it was so weird. Well, cut to a few weeks later, we find out that the owner had died. And when we found that out, we found out when he died, and it happened to be that day that our fire alarm went off 3 times. Now, prior to this, we didn't have any activity in the house. In fact, I prefer it that way. I don't know how many of you out there that are empaths and psychics, we prefer newer homes. It's really difficult for me to be in an older home or a home that has a lot of activity, just because it's too intense for me. So what happened was we had this fire alarm situation go off, and I thought, oh man, like we're going to start having more activity. And I guess I didn't really think that as much as I just kind of thought, oh, this is interesting. So we ended up purchasing the home. We bought the house. And since that time, we have had an increasing amount of activity, spiritual activity in the house, telekinetic activity, however you want to look at it. And so this fire alarm is definitely part of it. The next time the fire alarm beeped 3 times, a small plane crashed right by our house. We're like near an airport here in Colorado, and a plane crashed. So anytime it beeps, I tend to have a little bit of these like heart palpitations of like, oh my gosh, like this fire alarm is going to beep again. Like what is going to happen here, And so anyway, so I had this, this thing with this fire alarm and it beeping. And when I looked at it psychically, I did a meditation and looked at it. And when I did, what I saw when I remote viewed these alternate dimensions, because that's, to me, my experience, again, this is my own experience of remote viewing, is I can see the other dimensions when you're out of your body. It's not just the 3rd dimension. It's like all these dimensions. And what I saw was kind of like if a mouse had chewed a hole like started to chew a hole through the siding, and other mice then later came and did the same thing. It becomes like a spot where the mice are chewing these holes. And that's what I saw energetically with our fire alarms, is that because one spirit energy had gone through that kind of portal to communicate, it created this like kind of groove or rut in which other spirits could use that space to communicate. So all very interesting, right? So then we have this thing with these fire alarms. Well, unfortunately, we lost somebody very close to us last year. And when that happened, the activity has increased with lights going on and off. We've had our Apple Watches go on and off. The fire alarms continue to go on and off. And now what's happening is this person that we lost is connected to our kids, my stepkids. And now we're getting lights shutting off, like the power going out in one of the kids' rooms. And then something's going on with that particular kid. So we're getting messages in different rooms of the house, and we're having all this electrical stuff going on. So, it's just what's happening. And it makes me, gives me some perspective, I guess, because I've always been hesitant with older homes. Even apartments I lived in could be challenging. I've had very challenging experiences in apartments where somebody next to me was having a hard time, and I ended up being very emotional and realizing it wasn't me, it was my neighbor. So I have to be really careful with the energy. And what I'm realizing is, wow, I'm a psychic living in a house, and guess what? Now I'm the one that's calling in this spiritual energy and having all of these strange, bizarre things happen in the home. So I guess now my home is going to be the haunted house that nobody wants to own because there's so many spiritual activities. So all of that to say, that's like my story to share, to give you context for the video I'm going to show you, because we went to New Orleans, as I said, so wonderful. And I had a pet cam on so I could see my dog and cat. We had they were very well taken care of. And I had a pet cam just to make sure I could keep my eyes on them as well and keep an eye on the house. So about 1 a.m, I get a notification that there's motion in the house. Well, our dog definitely barks and things. And so I thought, oh, for sure, Ludwig is, he's barking or something's going on in the middle of the night. A neighbor came home late, something like that. It bothered the dog. When I looked at the video, I was astounded by what I saw, because it's absolutely not my dog. It is absolutely a spirit who wants to be seen very clearly, because the spirit goes directly towards the camera and sets off the motion sensor. So that's the thing, is like, it's not just, something floating around, but it literally flies at the camera, sets off the motion sensor. I believe that this spirit wanted to be seen. It wanted us to know that it was there. I have a sense of who it was, but you can never be sure. And so I'm going to play that video a couple of times so you can see it. So I'll play it the first time. Here we go. So that is the video, if you can believe it. So I'll play it again. So you can see that this spirit is going directly towards the camera. It wants to be seen and sets off the motion sensor. I'll put it on. There it comes. You can see it coming from the ceiling. So this was captured on my pet cam in my house at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's pretty amazing. And so, there it is, the spirit activity. And part of why I'm bringing this up, this spirit activity, is because I work as a medium, that's a big part of what I do. And I've really been reflecting recently. I've had such profound sessions with people connecting with their loved ones. And I'd never heard of an evidential medium until the other day, but I definitely think that seems to be what's happening with me is I am giving much more specific information than I have in the past. And I wonder, like, how does it even work, And I shouldn't even say in the past. I think I've always been specific, but it's a hard thing to own. It's a hard thing to say, oh, I talk to dead people, because what is that? I mean, how does that work? I don't know. And you're never sure, but I'm so grateful for those that have connected with me recently in preparation for losing people, and in losing people coming to me after they're gone and just connecting. And I've had some experiences too with people that were close to me, really for the first time in my life. I was really lucky. Some people experience a lot of death and in turn are mediums, and it's not like they're mediums because they had a lot of death, but I think sometimes it follows you. And I didn't have that experience. I didn't have a bunch of people I lost, or someone close to me that I lost as a child, and suddenly I, spoke to people that had passed away. It was more of just kind of a random thing that occurred, and it would happen in readings. People would come for their tarot readings or psychic predictions and ask me if I could talk to someone who passed away, and I'd always say, oh, I'll try. And then these profound, specific things would come through that were just mind-blowing, not just to my clients, but to me as well. I mean, it's really kind of amazing. And so that has continued to this day. People come and they want to connect with their loved ones, and I just kind of see what happens. And I'm always amazed at what comes through. And I wonder how that communication really works, and how the imprinting works. I know one thing, when we pass away, our transitions are much like a lucid dream. You fall asleep, right? And all of a sudden you're at your old neighbor's house with your best friend, or you're, in an old job you used to work, right? You're just someplace else, and you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, I had these dreams and I'm back. And sometimes it can be really disorienting when you have lucid dreams, because you might feel like you were gone for a long time when it was really just a few hours. Death is really the exact same experience from my own understanding, right? Which is we pass away and we go into that lucid state. And so what I do think happens is when somebody passes away, I think that if they're communicating with me as a medium, I think it's like an instantaneous thing. It's not like there's a time, because time is a linear thing that we invented. It's not really something you experience out of this 3-dimensional reality and out of the body. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's what I feel about it. I feel like, they show up, and maybe to them it was an instantaneous thing that they show up and they're communicating and connecting and giving information to their loved one through me, and then they move on, and it felt like it was an instantaneous thing from the moment that they passed away. I think that could be true. And so it's all just very interesting to me. It's all a mystery that I've been trying to unravel all of my life. So I'd love to know your own questions about it, or what you think. Like, what do you think happens when we die? What do you think happens when we communicate with someone who's passed away? I'd love to hear from you on that as well. So I have several decks of cards out here, and one of them is a new deck I got from New Orleans that I have with these really beautiful cards from New Orleans that I can pull from. And of course I have my tarot deck, and I also have a shaman deck, and I have a tarot deck, and definitely would be happy to read you. I'm pretty excited to share that I have a phone number you can call now that's going along the bottom of your screen. It's 720-819-5292. And you have the ability on that phone number to call in and leave a message, whether you want to leave a comment or if you have a question that you want to have read live on the air. I really wanted to bring back some of the OG radio show stuff. And so I'm really excited about this phone number. At some point, we might actually connect live phone calls in here, but we're going to start with just some messages and see how that goes and see how much spam we get from YouTube and see if it's legit or not. So yeah, so please feel free to use that phone number, and you can also use the live chat if you want to share something. So I want to start, let's just start today with my New Orleans Oracle deck my dad bought for me while we were in New Orleans. And I think what I'll do is I'm just going to pull a card for us today. Like, where are we going today? What are we talking about? I've been listening to a lot of astrology and kind of stressed myself out because I feel like our world, everything's changing so much and there's just so much unknowns, you know? And oh, wow. So the card that fell out while I was shuffling here is Adventure. Look at that card. So pretty. I love the images on these cards. They're really pretty. So let's see what the message says and let's see where we go from here. Because what I'd like to do, I've got some things I'd like to look at live on the air, because I think sometimes when you do it live, more things come through than you would if you try to do it on your own. So card I pulled for us for today, Adventure. It is easy to get caught up in the obligations of completing everyday chores, so much so that the very essence of inspiration and excitement can slowly fade away. Before we know it, life becomes one long day of completing task after task. Yikes. This card has shown up because it's time for some adventure. Adventures can be had near and far. It is about paying attention to what brings the feeling of renewed excitement into your being, whether it's taking a day trip to a fun and unfamiliar place or checking out a new activity that piques your interest. It's time to break the cycle of what your days have turned into. It is time to explore and renew yourself with inspirational energy by having an adventure. So, you know, in the US, we're getting ready for summer, right? So what a time for some summer adventures. I'd love to hear what you all have planned for your summer adventures. And it's such a great message because I think it's very easy, I know, because I've been there this week, to get caught up in the anxiety of the news and what's going on in the world and the weather and the pole shifts and the earthquakes and all the things we're worried about happening. And we forget to have fun. And so going on an adventure is such a great message from these cards. So I love that. So I'm going to leave that out for us. The adventure card. Very, very good. Let's pull one for my shamanic deck as well. I kind of want to see what journey, when it talks about adventure, you know, what are we talking about here? And, oh, interesting. So out of my mystical shaman oracle, I pulled the middle world. So we have adventure and we have the middle world. And the middle world, is the realm of day-to-day reality, the playground of living, the present moment where everything is happening. The middle world is about heaven and earth connected, smiling upon you. This is about resources that we need to support us on our endeavors, on our adventures, right? It's important to ask for help from the upper world when we are in the middle world. So here's what's interesting to me. And oh, I love this. Riley's here hiking the state parks with my adventure cat. Oh my God, backpack trained. I love that. I saw somebody hiking one day with their cat sitting on top of their backpack. And I so wish I could do that with Cauldron, but she's just so wild. She'd just run all around. She wouldn't ever stay with us. And I'd be so afraid I'd lose her. But I love that you're doing that right now. So happy day for your backpacking. So here's what's interesting. You know, I pulled adventure and I pulled middle world, and I was just having a very intense discussion with my husband about this world, you know, and how I just want to be this spiritual being that wanders around and talks to spirits and is creative and writes and sings and practices yoga or whatever, I guess, whatever I think that is, and how I'm stuck in this middle world. You know, we're stuck with jobs and money and budgets and all these things we have to do. So I think it's interesting that those are the cards I'm pulling. It's clearly my energy, but the intention is it's about all of us. So, are we asking for help from the upper world? Are we finding an adventure to pull us out of the middle world? What are we doing here? And I think that's going to be a lot of our focus really as we go into, these next few years, right? Like, so much has changed in the world since 2020, and we're concerned about things like the economy and our leadership and money and being able to survive here. And so wanting to survive in this middle world, how do we make our life in the middle world an adventure? How do we do that? So good messages, though. I mean, the main message is to ask for help and to go on an adventure. So take that into account for yourself as well. So I don't know what's on everybody's mind today. I would love to, if you have questions or anything you want to know about. One thing I wanted to pull about today was just Donald Trump's well-being. I don't want to do that to cause fights with people either, by the way. So, please don't yell at me. But there's been a lot of astrologers predicting something happening to him. He's got really challenging astrology in the month of May. We've had other things post on social media. And so I just thought I'd throw my regular tarot cards, a quick Celtic cross, just on, his well-being really for the month of May. And if it's possible we are going to see something happen, or has the energy manifested in a different way. I'm kind of hoping, astrology energy can manifest lots of ways. So I'm hopeful that, this bizarre stuff that was posted on social media about Trump is the manifestation of this rather than something actually happening to him. No matter what you think about him, I think we always want our leaders to be safe. So I was just going to take a little look. We'll just see what the cards have to say here. So first card I'm laying down is the Hierophant. This is where he's at in the present moment. This is a teacher. This is a leader. So that seems self-explanatory. Here's what's crossing him is the High Priestess. So what's crossing him is intuition. I have no doubt, just based on what I've seen, that he has some kind of astrologer or psychic or both or multiple working for him to support him, because the choices he makes are always astrologically good choices. As far as what I mean by that, because I know people are going to troll about all that. What I'm trying to say is certain events, certain things that the Trump administration plans happen in appropriate astrological times, and that doesn't always happen. So I have a sense. What's above is Two of Cups. Now, this could be the caduceus, which could be medical. So it might be that ultimately something is going to happen that requires medical. What's below, Hangman, things hanging in the balance. What's behind, Page of Cups, emotional. What's in front, Three of Swords. See, I don't like that at all. The last four cards in our Celtic cross, Six of Pentacles, the Chariot. Got to make room for all my stuff here. The Sun, don't like that either. Final card, Five of Wands. So just looking at this, I'd say it's possible something's going to happen, but it doesn't look as dramatic as it could be. And it certainly looks treatable or repairable based on this being up at the top. Five of Wands, the story of this is always that they're play fighting. They really could put their sticks down. So it's kind of like making things harder than they need to be. I always think of this card in present day as working on the computer when things just aren't going right. And you really should just shut it off, but you're like trying to push through something. So in this instance, if we were looking at his well-being over the next few weeks, I guess what I would say is he's going to push through no matter if there's a threat to his life or anything. He's just going to continue to push through, which maybe doesn't make it difficult for him. I think it does, but it makes it difficult for everybody because they have to just push through in spite of the safety risks. This, to me, is less of an attempt on his life and more about his physical health, right? Three of Swords. So I don't know, looking at this, I think he has probably a good sense of where he's in danger and is going to push through in spite of it. And if something does happen, it's treatable, but it looks minimal here. So that's what I see. It's kind of what I expected. I feel like the energy is diminishing around it, but there's so many astrologers talking about it. I just wanted to take a look at that. So it's very interesting. I also wanted to take a look at our weather in the United States. Certainly happy to look at weather other places. Really for the month of June, there's been a lot of predictions about earthquakes and hot weather and all sorts of things. So I'm just going to shuffle about the weather as well and see what that has to say. And again, if you have any questions or anything you want to know, I will be popping on here more often. I've been in this big process of opening my healing lab and setting up my office here that I'm sitting in, and it's finally all just gorgeous. I've lit incense and ready for the day. So let's see, weather in June is what I'm asking for. Laying out my cards here. Let's see what they have to say. Oh, that's funny. Look at my last card is the same Five of Wands. Isn't that peculiar? That's so peculiar. So that tells me that the energy upcoming, because I've thrown two cards about two totally different things, and I'm still getting the Five of Wands. So I would predict in a month of May, we're still in May, I predict that the next probably 5 weeks, right, if we're looking at this, is going to be a lot like this Five of Wands, where it's a struggle. It shouldn't be a struggle. It doesn't need to be a struggle, but for some reason we're making it a struggle. But when we talk about weather, it's interesting. It comes up with an island environment or a tropical environment having some kind of weather issue. It could be Mexico. It could be the Mediterranean. It could be Hawaii. It almost feels like Mexico to me, or South America, just intuitively, but it's showing that some kind of tropical environment, a coastline environment, might have some kind of issue. And there's so many wands involved. Well, wands is earth, so that could be your earthquake energy, coastal earthquake energy. And I'm also definitely seeing heat for sure starting to come out. Nines, lots of nines, 90s. Probably there's going to be some 90-degree weather in places that normally wouldn't have it. That almost looks like mountainous regions. I live in Colorado. It could be very hot here as well. And then I'm also seeing some storms, and that looks more east to me. Storms in the east, storms in the southeast maybe as well, just looking at my cards here. So we'll see what weather has to bring. I think we've got heat. We've got some kind of earth activity going on near a coastline, potentially in June, but I also see July here. And then I'm also seeing with the weather here that we've got some storms in the southeast. So there you have it. We'll see what unfolds, I guess, over the next month, but it's not terrible. I mean, when I look at this and I'm doing card scanning, looking at 10 cards at once, I would say hopefully June is not too crazy and we're not seeing natural disasters in the month of June, at least in the United States is where I was looking there. Certainly can look other places. So yeah, so I will be working with a group of people, connecting with spirits here in the next half hour, and just wanted to hop in and talk a little bit and share my video and connect. For those of you who have questions or there's something you want to know about, I'm going to try to hop on a lot this week. Let's see what unfolds. I've got my New Orleans cards. Let's remember it's all about adventure this week. And you know where to find me. My website's buddhistbiohacker.com. If you're looking for a reading, it's under transformative coaching. And You can do 30-minute, 60-minute readings. I still do those in addition to all of the health coaching. And for those of you who are local, you should come try the Healing Lab. I have red light therapy now and neural programming and some things to really help support us. And of course, gong healing as well. So thank you so much for just letting me talk a little bit today. So much love to each and every one of you. And I will talk to you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.